Right, welcome back everybody, it's Jackie and I'm, crashing my chair. I'm going to have a go again at doing a tag tutorial. We're going to do a simple one. I did this once already and took it down because it was really bad. I don't always find it easy to be completely natural when I'm doing this. I try to be. Anyway, so I thought we'd just do, we're still in the sequence. I've told you before, I think there's about 24 of these and I think this is number 7. We're going to do this fairly simple one, but I'm going to use a different colourway. I've got stuff ready and I'm going to try and explain why I chose what I did. So if that's too boring for you, you might want to skip through a little bit. This is about using scrapbook paper to give a sort of collaged look behind the main image. So I'm going to still use a flower fairy. And I chose this scrapbook paper and I've cut it to, I think it's 3 3/8 by 6.5 this time, slightly wider, touch wider than the others. Don't ask me why, it just is. And I've cut it en card as well. And then I've just gone together and I've cut, used my template to cut the corners off. So that's just lined up like that and snipped the corners off. So I've got that far, and then I wanted something to go with blue, so I picked out this sort of orangey colour and this lace because I wanted to sort of do similar lace to the bottom, and I didn't like it really. I mean, actually now I'm looking at it again, it's better than I thought maybe, but I think I'll go with my second choice, which as I went through my Flower Fairy book, I found this image, which to me tones in more appropriately with the colours. We've got the brown, it's a bit more subdued, I think, which is what I like really when I'm doing these sort of designs. So that's going to be our basic design. I've got buttons, I've got some plain lace. It is actually vintage lace, but it's fairly simple, and I've got things ready for the tab, so we'll get started. The only thing I'm going to do to dress this background up a little bit is to do a little bit of stamping on it, and I'm going to use this text stamp from a collection that I got from Paper Artsy. It's this one here. This is Limparella. When I first started stamping 20 years ago, Limparella was, I thought she was wonderful, and I still do. If you like mixed media, look her up. You'll enjoy her stuff. So I'm using a Versamark ink pad here, and I'm just going to put a few little marks here and there. You won't see many of them. It does add a little bit of interest. I'll probably do. It's always, you don't want to go over the top with this. So that's the first little bit. And when I look at my original, I've stitched around the edges. For this one, because I want the back to be as plain as possible, I'm going to do my stitching on the paper. I'm actually going to do that first. So I've threaded up my sewing machine. It's a new one, but it's a little one. I've threaded it up with a variegated brown thread, and I'm using a straight stitch. And if you just bear with me, I'll whiz round. So I'm not as close to the edge as I would have liked. I normally do my stitching a bit closer to the edge, but we'll get away with it, so that's fine. It's also a bit wonky because I was trying to rush, but we'll pretend that I meant that. So this is walnut stain distress ink. I'm just going around the edges. I did this earlier because this is just very slightly shiny and I wanted the ink to have time to dry on it. So that's how that's going to go. And I think what we'll do is complete the tag on this and then glue the whole thing on here before we put the tab on. So that's going to go something like that. I've got this lace which I want just hanging over the bottom, sort of about 1 inch, 3/4 of an inch. I couldn't find any more solid lace, so to make it a bit more solid, I don't really want to see all of this tag through the bottom. So I'm just going to layer this piece over the top and then this piece over there, and we'll stitch that on afterwards. So I'm going to use Fabri-Tac for the lace. And I'm not too fussy about where I put all of this, so let's do some along here. You won't really see this anyway, so and then we'll just glue behind this top bit. It's a little bit skew with, so we'll put that down like that. And then this next piece just literally over the top. So again, I'm going to go along where this is at its thickest so the glue won't show. Again, we'll do a line. Okay, and this one's here, and I'm just going to line my image up again, just so I can see. I want the bottom to be over the lace, but I want to leave a little bit of gap at the top so that I can put the vellum tag on there. So something like that looks about right to me. So again, I'm just going to put gluing over this, stitching over this as well. So again, it's not too bad if the glue starts to show through a little bit. I'm going to glue this down before I stitch round it, just to make sure really that it stays in place while I'm stitching. And I'm only using a Fabri-Tac because I've got that out. So something like that. And then what I'm going to do is zigzag around the edge of this one. So I'll do that next. Using the same thread. So that's looking pretty nice, I think. I don't want it quite so raggedy, so I'm just going to trim those edges a little bit. There we go. Take that corner off there. Okay, and the next thing we're going to do is stitch the buttons on, and I've chosen a brown button, a softish green one, and a little sort of vintage pearly button, and I'm going to stitch those on, tying them off at the top here, at the front. So the way you do that, start with this one. So I know I want that next to his wings, is literally to go down, down one, just making a hole the other side, coming up the other side. I shall cut my thread. This is 6-strand embroidery cotton, and just tie that off. I think I've shown you how I do this before. So what I'll do now is tie the other, or stitch the other buttons on, and then I'll come back and finish off. Okay, seemed like I'd never gone away. So this is the buttons stitched on with a bit of brown embroidery thread. Now I'm going to do the tab at the top, and I'm going to do it in a very similar way to this one, although I used printed vellum for this one, for the original. This one I've got a little bit of slightly off-white vellum, and I've cut it approximately just over 1 3/4 by 2 3/4, and folded that in half, and I'm going to stitch it to the top of this once I've glued this together. So the first thing to do is to glue this piece onto the card base. I like my tags to be quite firm. I'm still using an acetone based glue, but it's a little bit more free flowing. It's the it's called Collall, a glue that's, I don't know if you can get it anywhere else in the world, but it's quite freely available here in the UK. It does a good job. So doing it that way, you cover up all the stitching on your tag. I don't always do that. It depends on what I want to use the tag for, really, or sometimes just the mood I'm in. So I'm just going round. Quite often, if I was making a journal, I would use cream card, but I've chosen white today. Okay, so this is going to go over the top like so. On the original I put a bit of lace in there, so I think we'll do that again. I'm going to just try and hold everything in place with a little bit of glue stick, just because it'll move about as I try and stitch it. So that's going to go that way, like that. I think we'll have it like that, so the lace is just outside. So again, put a bit of glue stick to try and hold this in place while I stitch. And my plan for this one is actually to zigzag across here. And I don't think I want the lace sticking out, so I'm just going to stick that, or not sticking out so much anyway. Okay, so just a quick zigzag across there. And there we are. You can leave the threads or cut them off. On the original I put an eyelet through here. Can't decide whether to do that or not. I think I will do that. The original was double-sided and I made them to hang on a book ring, but there's no reason why you can't do this. It's going through the lace as well. It hasn't quite done that. And let's choose a gold. There we go. I think if I was doing that again, I'd actually make that a little bit slightly narrower, but it's pretty balanced and I'm quite pleased with how that looks. We could also tie some ribbon through there if you wanted to, or use it to hang. So thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye bye.